everyone, and welcome back to Doctor Who's Crown Jewels. We are now on to Season 4, which, it's an interesting season of the show for sure. Season 4 went through a lot of changes. For instance, the first Doctor was on his way out due to William Hartnell's failing health, and they needed to regenerate the show, renew its longevity, by renewing Doctor Who himself. So this season went through a lot of experimentation, including recasting the character of the Doctor. I feel like every time they were trying to do something new, they succeeded, and they succeeded hard. Even the stories this season were really good. The worst story of the season is okay, and the rest of them are good to phenomenal and some of the best in the show. We haven't really seen this since Season 1, and even with Season 1, there were ifs, buts, and asterisks. But we're not here to talk about how great every story in Season 4 is, we're here to look at the best of the best. And before I do, what's my honourable mention this week? That is the finale of the season, The Evil of the Daleks. I will say, 7-parters I do find quite difficult to revisit. It's because they're so long, but that doesn't mean they really waste what they have. For instance, the ideas that Evil of the Daleks produces, such as what it means to be human, how that can apply to the Daleks, and focusing on the Daleks removing their humanity, is honestly brilliant. And it really tests the Doctor and Jamie quite early on in their relationship. I would say David Whittaker is probably the most consistent Dalek writer out of all the people who got to handle them more than once. And that is because the first story in this episode of Crown Jewels is the power of the Daleks. What do you do for the next episode of Doctor Who when you've gotten rid of Doctor Who, and you want everyone to be on side with this new actor? Pit him up against the Daleks, that's what. And not only that, show that it's the same old show by leaning into what makes the Daleks. Show that it's the same old Doctor figuring out a way to defeat them, and giving Ben and Polly a way of processing it similar to how the viewers would. I would say its biggest strength is the Daleks themselves. A scientist called Lesterson discovers the Daleks and plans to revive them. However, this is what the Daleks want, so they can rebuild their armies, take over the colony, and kill. However, the Daleks have to play a long game with this, because for a lot of time, before they can even start mass producing, they still require the power from Lesterson, so they pretend to be servants to the colony. But not only that, the human characters are quite devious as well. I think David Whittaker tries to compare humanity to the Daleks in such a way because everyone has their own agenda, the Daleks have their own agenda, and everyone's keeping it secret, and it's a huge power grab. Hence the title Power of the Daleks. It isn't just about the literal power keeping them alive, it's about the grab for power that all of them are trying to do. The colonists do end up backstabbing one another and even use the Daleks to dispatch them, to the point a Dalek even asks, why do human beings kill other human beings? Because of course a Dalek wouldn't want to kill another Dalek unless absolutely necessary. It really brings to mind how low are we as a species willing to go to achieve our own individual causes. I don't think there's much more I want to talk about, really. I mean, the way it handles the holiday departures of Annika Wills and Michael Craze is quite nice, because although they find a way to have the plot keep going without them, but still have their absence play a presence in the story. David Whittaker's great at character, so of course that was going to be inevitable. Patrick Troughton does give a great first impression. He's not quite the Doctor we will know him to be, and he's in a way trying to distance himself from the Doctor to keep us guessing, I suppose. However, he does stuff only the Doctor would do. And honestly, it's great. Although The Doctor and the Power of the Daleks did weird me out on my first viewing, the more I've watched the story, the more I've grown to appreciate it, and the more I've grown to love everything about the story. It's almost like a surreal horror experience. What further cements this is Lesterson himself. Although all the other characters who I've kind of glossed over for the purposes of this video, who are all great in their own right, Lesterson still stands out. He may be the most important one to the plot, but they also utilise him quite well. Lesterson kind of goes insane throughout the runtime. He has a scientific curiosity, which develops into a scientific obsession, which develops into an almost controlling obsession over the Daleks. And then when he realizes Daleks are reproducing, he has a great fear, but then something finally snaps and he worships them as the beings that come next. He even spouts back what the Daleks had been saying all the story. They kept saying, "I am your servant," and then he spat that out back at them because he was just so far gone. But the Daleks didn't need him, so they killed him. I honestly think Lessons in Journey in this story is very, very just it's sublime. And that's what this whole story is, sublime. So I've waxed lyrical about this, probably because Power of the Daleks may be the best story we've covered so far on Crown Jewels. Possibly. Yeah, actually no, it is. I'm going to say it right now. I like it a lot more than like the Aztecs, Marco Polo, etc. But would you believe it if I said the next story just surpasses it, in my opinion? I would feel it unfair if I talked about the Macra Terror without Power of the Daleks, but I do prefer it. I wasn't sure after my rewatch of Power of the Daleks if it overtook the Macra Terror for me, but then rewatching the Macra Terror, I loved it even more as well. The Macra Terror is also about a colony, but instead of everyone wanting to backstab each other, it's very idyllic. There's a reason. They're subservient, they're being controlled, they're not thinking freely, even though it seems so nice. But the Doctor notices a few things are a bit wrong. He saw on the time scanner that there was a creature afoot. Someone was saying, "Oh no, there's creatures," and he was being detained for it. So he caught onto that and was like, "I want to know more about what that guy's saying." And then he gets into a load of trouble for it as well. Although Jamie and Polly don't succumb to it, Ben does. And he starts working for the colony. And he starts betraying his friends, all because he was brainwashed into believing that doing what's best for the colony is best to do, and the controller knows what's best for everyone. However, the controller isn't real. He's actually Macra. The Macra, who do not exist, there are no such thing as Macra, are controlling everything, of course. They're getting everyone in the colony to refine gas for them. That's it. Simple. But they've taken away their free will. Polly admittedly doesn't have much to do in the story. All that happens is that she gets chased by Ben. That is like the only structural impact I can see that I think was a benefit, and it led to an iconic scene towards the end of part 2. Ben, of course, denies this in the final scenes of the episode. The Doctor's, not only his scientific curiosity, but his empathy and understanding and wanting to make sure everyone's out safe, but also wanting to listen to someone who is being outcasted. Even if that person was wrong, he would have something to learn from this. And because he was proven right, the Doctor's on his side immediately. And he's also just very, very anti-authority in this. He tinkers with everything to do with the colony, and he's very happy with himself, even giving himself a little 11 out of 10. He's got so many great character moments. And Jamie also gets a chance to actually do something. Because Jamie was a last-minute addition, the writers of The Underwater Menace and The Moonbase didn't have much to really work with. He was incorporated fairly well into The Moonbase by sleeping a lot because he was a bit ill. But now he has an active role, and Ian Stewart Black really gave Jamie a good amount to do. Jamie, with his more simple and instinctual thought processes from the past, he knew something was up. And no matter how cheerful everyone is, there's just something a bit too weird about the place. So naturally, he was more suspicious, and that led him to freely think the most. I don't have much to say on these stories that haven't already been said. I know the Macra Terror isn't as talked about as I think it should be. I do feel like it got a lot more reappraisal when it got animated because more people were exposed to it and they realised how good it really is. But I still don't think it's talked about enough. But if you want to hear more about it, check out Will's Who's Overlooked Writers on Ian Stewart Black. I feel like anything that I would have to say might be treading too much on what he's already said. We both really love this story. Let me just say, he has impeccable taste, because along with Power of the Daleks, the Macra Terror is Season 4's crown jewel. Well, I hope you're enjoying this series so far, and next time I'll be trolling through Season 5, which will be certainly interesting, considering there are quite a few shining gems in Season 5. I'm so excited to delve into it. But in the meantime, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care now.